Welcome to the 1 week of the year where college football fans that can't stomach the NFL and NFL fans that think college football is stupid lay down their arms and embrace the chaos that is the draft, because everybody walks away a winner. NFL fans get to see a high-profile prospect hopefully become the franchise cornerstone en route to winning a Lombardi trophy. College football fans get to see their favorite players don a new jersey that can be added to the collection while representing their colleges at the highest level. And in the SEC, there is a ton of talent. There's always a ton of talent, and 2024 is no exception. But one question I get asked as somebody that covers both college and the NFL: who are the surefire first-round picks that reside from the Southeastern Conference? So today, let's break down every single prospect I expect to be selected on Thursday night and throw in a few nuggets of maybe some late sleepers that could find their way into the end of day one. What's going on, SEC Unfiltered? It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure that you like the video, hit the comments section. Who is your dark horse to find their way into the first 32 picks? And hit subscribe, because we're talking college football, we're talking SEC football every single day leading up to week one and well into the 2024 season. Make sure that you're following us on social media: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Mr. Cole Thompson and at SEC Unfiltered. Really, whatever app Elon Musk owns or is going to own, we are on. Make sure that you download the podcast version of the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, really wherever you get your podcast listening systems. And to guarantee that you're keeping up with the #1 conference in all of college athletics, make sure that you visit SECUnfiltered.com. So, who are the surefire first-round picks from the SEC? It's a laundry list of names this year, and it's usually this way. But when you really think about it, from guys who didn't make a major impact at their university or guys that ended up winning countless awards, there is going to be a ton of talent that resides in the NFL come next season and certainly hits the stage or gets the camera posted on them at some point during Thursday night. Let's start off with the first one. Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner out of LSU. Guy already has everything that you need to be successful at the NFL level. And in the right offense, he could probably compete for Offensive Rookie of the Year, maybe even pull a CJ Stroud and lead his team to the postseason. It's not that far-fetched. The mobility, the accuracy, the downfield trajectory, there is a lot to like about his game. And you hear scouts rave about what his upside is. They see a lot of RG3. RG3 in the right offense would have been phenomenal for over a decade in the pros and probably would have won multiple playoff games. Kirk Cousins wouldn't exist if not for the malarkey that was Washington back in 2012 to play him. The one caveat that I do have when it comes to Jaden Daniels: will he be able to learn to get out of bounds? Because it's one thing to go up against a linebacker in the SEC that weighs 225 pounds. That's most safeties in the NFL. You're going to get a 240-pound son of a bitch who's not going to care at all about what you look like and pile drive you into the ground. So if you can find a way to guarantee that you run out of bounds, get the next drive moving, you get yourself in the right system, there is a lot of optimism that Jaden Daniels not only will continue his path that he started out in Baton Rouge, but will only enhance it moving into the next stage of his game. Brock Bowers. Guys, this guy has the dog in him. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you talk to any NFL scout, you talk to any person that watches college football, any person that loves the NFL, just spit swapping, smash mouth, no nonsense pile driving, swapping action, you're going to want a Brock Bowers on your team. Surefire hands, one of the best route runners in the class, can do more with less than we've ever seen. He reminds me a lot of George Kittle, but the thing that really sticks out about his game, he is still so much unknown. The versatility, the instructional playmaking, the run after catch ability. He can scheme up certain ways that he is a human chess piece for most offenses. You don't think that guy's going to go in the top 15? Like, if he played wide receiver and not tight end, he would be a bona fide top 5 pick. I don't think anybody would argue that. He's a top 5 talent. But because of the Kyle Pitts conundrum that we saw in Atlanta a few years ago, you're probably not going to see him go as high as some expect. He may be one of the best players in the draft, but that doesn't mean he's going to be one of the highest drafted players. Try saying that like 5 times fast. Regardless, Bowers is going to be a superstar at the NFL level. He's one of the most pristine tight end prospects the league has seen in over a decade. And don't be shocked if he's finding his way into an end zone near you, especially if you're a Georgia fan. Go ahead and just stockpile up on as much number 19 gear as possible. Plus, please, NFL, allow him to wear number 19. I need a tight end to either be number 0 or number 19. Brock Bowers has earned that right. LSU's Malik Neighbors, another wide receiver that certainly is going to garner a lot of day one interest and a lot of top 5 interest. Kid was phenomenal, arguably the best wide receiver prospect we've seen come out of Baton Rouge since Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. And much like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, he has a running mate in Brian Thomas Jr. We'll get to him in a moment, but the only thing that worries me when it comes to a guy like Malik Neighbors is his refinement with routes. He's going to catch everything, including a cold. He's going to make highlight grabs that just make your jaw drop, and he's going to be exactly what you possess in terms of speed, physicality, and that vertical element. When you average 17.5 yards per play, you are considered a home run threat, and that's exactly what he's going to be at the NFL level. But can he get better with his route running? Can he be a little bit more refined? Can he go ahead and fixture himself to become one of the more premier playmakers across the intermediate part of the field? Because when you have a quarterback like Jaden Daniels and you're playing against some lackluster defenses in Baton Rouge, sometimes all you got to do is just outrun everybody. You will not outrun everybody in the NFL. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. Never has been, never will be. Still a top 10 player in this year's draft, arguably the second best pass catcher behind, you guessed it, Brock Bowers, and certainly has a reason to believe he could be, if not the first wide receiver taken, definitely a top 5 pick. Speaking of top 5 picks, how quickly do you think that you would know everything about the NFL draft? Put your knowledge to the test by visiting MYBOOKIE.ag. What is MYBOOKIE.ag? Well, they're a betting site that not only gives you the best odds, numbers, and fixtures to be able to guarantee you walk away with a little bit more cash in your pocket, but they have everything under the sun. You like the NHL playoffs? Who doesn't like the NHL playoffs? It's the greatest playoffs in professional sports. I said it. I don't care what you other people think. It is amazing. Go ahead and bet on it. Go ahead and bet on the NBA playoffs. Do you think that this is the year the Knicks finally get it done? Or are you more so believing that LeBron James actually is an ageless wonder? How do you feel about the golf tournament this upcoming weekend? And also with the NFL draft, do you think Caleb Williams is going to slip past Chicago at number 1? Go ahead and try and win yourself an extra sum of money and prove that you actually know the cheat codes to literally every video game and probably the nuclear codes that we have in the White House by going and visiting mybookie.ag. Use the promo code SECU for 100% a deposit match worth up to $1,000 with your first deposit. It's mybookie.ag. Visit SECU. Use the promo code and get $100 on a deposit match worth up to $1,000. Go ahead and win yourself some extra money this weekend. We all know there's going to be superstars going in the NFL draft. We want you to be a superstar sitting at home, counting your sums, and just make sure that you send a little bit to yours truly and to all of us over here at SEC Unfiltered, just by going to mybookie.ag. Brian Thomas Jr., another guaranteed first-round wide receiver. That speed is unteachable, and that's just one thing that people don't understand. You have it or you don't. And what do most teams covet? Speed, a little bit more speed, and probably that much more speed. Like, it's exactly what Steve Sarkisian was talking about with the all gas, no brakes. Speed. There's a need for it, and every team wants it. And Brian Thomas Jr. has it. He's also got the size radius of what you're looking for in an outside wide receiver. He's also been able to play a nice complementary role for any team. Everyone's talking about him probably being a top 15 pick. I can almost guarantee that that's where he lands. I think that he is probably the 3rd or 4th wide receiver taken. And there is a lot of optimism to believe that, yes, from the get-go, he can be a number 1 playmaker. Much like Malik Neighbors, though, I do wonder what the rest of his route tree looks like at the NFL level. If you ask him to run stops, goes, curls, and comebacks, I would say A+, 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 A+. You ask him to run really anything else, well, that's out of hands, and even I don't know if it can transpire quickly. What I can inspire that translating quickly is Terrion Arnold to any defense. I was so high on him coming out this past year. I remember seeing him in that Alabama game and wondering, is this going to be the version of the Crimson Tide that we see all year? Well, he must have heard me on some podcast or on my radio show and decided to wake up and choose violence, because he was arguably the best cornerback in college football this year. Phenomenal fluid route running, the ability to mirror and match any single receiver, good ball hawking skills, great in coverage, is willing to make plays down the field. Very smooth footwork. He has a good upper body frame. The thing that really stands out about him, he's a stingy defender that consistently makes plays on the football. He is very grabby in coverage, but that can be taught out of you. And sometimes being a little bit grabby actually plays in your favor. I think that Terrion Arnold is going to be arguably the best cornerback in this year's draft, and maybe even the first cornerback selected, as high as 13 at the Las Vegas Raiders stand pat. His teammate, Kool-Aid McKinstry, this is one that is probably going to see a draft day tumble just a tad, but I do think he still will find his way into the first-round conversations. You're not a 3-year starter underneath Nick Saban and earning reps as a freshman when you are a nobody. You better be a somebody, and this somebody goes by a nickname of the man that literally has brought joy to us kids from the 90s by screaming, "Oh yeah," and "Oh yeah." You can imagine that a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry can be a bona fide number one corner. He has all the capabilities to be able to hit in the open field. He's great when it comes to creating separation against wide receivers. He's physical in press man coverage. You either have that alpha dog attitude or you are the dog that is waiting to follow the betas. You are that alpha dog. That's why you were number one. That's why you are a number one quarterback, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and I'm excited to see where he goes. I do think he will find his way into the first round, even though the Jones foot fracture and the 4.47 40 time really didn't do him a lot of favors. Still, you play at Alabama, you play for Nick Saban, and you put up the type of numbers that you did last season. 15 pass breakups in 2022. I'm going to break a lot of people's hearts by saying that Kool-Aid McKinstry might end up being a cornerback that you don't want to play for your favorite NFL team. One guy that absolutely deserves some conversations, even though he didn't play in the the SEC this year. Spoiler alert, I just gave it away. Byron Murphy is, in my opinion, the best defensive prospect. There is something about having a bull rushing defensive tackle that can easily be a fixture in the run game and add a second gusto of wind to any pass rushing set that I just coveted. And I hate to break this to you. I don't care if you played in the ACC. I don't care if you played in the Big 12. I don't care if you played against the American Athletic Conference. Byron Murphy would have been fine in the SEC. We would be talking about him probably as the best defensive player in the conference if he was able to go ahead and get reps against, say, Florida or Tennessee or Georgia or Ole Miss. And if he played really for any other school of the 6 of the 14 that currently reside in the conference where it just means more, I think more people would have respect for him. I could see him going as high as number 9 to the Chicago Bears. I could see him going as low as probably 18 to the Cincinnati Bengals. Kind of everything you're saying about Brock Bowers and his line, that's where you think about Byron Murphy. And I do think that he will end up being the best defensive tackle prospect in this year's draft, but also one of the best defenders when all is said and done in his career. How about another guy that is going to garner a lot of interest because of just his flexibility? Dallas Turner out of Alabama. This was, in my opinion, the most consistent SEC defensive player last year. You continuously watch him be able to have great bend, agility, force his way into the backfield, and he didn't have a security net anymore. Because it's one thing to be able to say, well, I'll just go back there and I'll make a couple of big-time hits because it's okay if I don't have the best game. Will Anderson exists? Well, Will's gone. Will went to the NFL. He had a pretty damn good season. Defensive Rookie of the Year, if I'm not mistaken. And Dallas Turner just said, okay, I am going to pick up the pieces, and I'm going to make sure that people kind of forget about number 31, and they only talk about number 15. Over 15 tackles for losses, over 12 and a half sacks. Guy has the every bit of a springy edge rusher that you want, has a lot of Josh Sweat to his game, a lot of Josh Allen for the Jacksonville Jaguars to his game, elite athleticism, pure pass rusher, can play the run extremely well. I really think that he is going to be probably the first defensive lineman taken as an edge rusher, and make no mistake, he probably should be as well. How about his teammate, J.C. Latham? So Latham's a guy that I think is probably only going to be limited to one side of the offensive line, which used to be a negative. Now it means nothing. It's absolutely nothing. It's like the game Whose Line Is It Anyway, where the points don't matter and we just make things up as we go. You need 2 tackles to be successful. It's not one needs to be great against the run, which Latham is, and one needs to be great in pass pro, which Latham has some room for improvement, but still a lot of positivity. It's all about having as much size as you can. Good footwork, solid bulldozer. He's great in short areas. He's a wrecking ball that stands 6'6", 342 pounds. Tell me that you don't want to have that as a run blocker leading your favorite tailback for 6 points to the end zone. He did it last year in Tuscaloosa. He did it the year before in Tuscaloosa. You could kind of guess where this is going because he also did it in 2022. So regardless of what you think, a guy like J.C. Latham maybe is not going to be the first offensive tackle selected. He may not even be the first of 3 offensive tackles selected, but he will be a first-round pick. He will be a guy that does make a household name for himself simply because of his nimble footwork and his ability to be able to have great size and sustainability in the trenches. Another guy with sustainability that I think could be really good in time is Amarius Mims. Now, Mims is one of those players that we see every once in a blue moon. You're betting on the actual progress and potential more so than the live reps because 8 games is the sample size we got of him at Georgia, and those 8 games were very promising, but can you imagine if you have a guy and what you saw in those 8 games do it 18 games or 22 games or 25 games or simply you catch my drift here. It's a wash, rinse, repeat formula. And Georgia fans right now are probably saying to yourselves, doesn't this seem a little familiar? Yeah, that's what happened with Nick Saban when he was building offensive lines while winning national titles every other year. Congratulations. Now you are Alabama 2.0. Mims has everything that you want in a left tackle, good footwork, solid frame, good overall balance, and impeccable upside. I mean, incredible. The ceiling of this kid is beyond baffling. And you can probably play him on the other side of the offensive line, but he's just raw. He plays too high at times. He can be sometimes a liability in the run game. The inexperience is probably going to move him down draft boards, but when you see the flashes in pass pro, when you see the flashes in run blocking, when you see what he was able to do during multiple live reps in games, that's the reason why you believe that Amarius Mims can be a difference maker from the jump, but also he can be probably one of, if not the best offensive lineman when his career is all said and done. How about some sleepers that are certainly going to be names that maybe don't garner a lot of first-round buzz, but could end up being at least somewhat stable options? Number 1, Ladd McConkey. People want to kind of forget that Ladd McConkey is really good. And people also seem to want to forget that Ladd McConkey is not Julian Edelman or Danny Amendola or name insert white wide receiver that played for the New England Patriots in the 2010s when Tom Brady was slinging it around the yard. He's not that dude. He's better than all of them. He's more refined as a route runner. I actually got to speak to him during the combine, and one thing that he continued to say was, I don't mind the comps. What I mind is that people kind of forget I'm not a slot receiver. I played most of my reps on the outside. And the other thing that's really important here, he knows how to play really everywhere on the field, and he's great inside the red zone. He's also a willing blocker, which I think does wonders for his overall draft stock when it comes to building for the long term. I could easily see him be a guy that makes it at the very end of round 1. He's good in route running. He's got incredible open field speed. His technique is phenomenal, and he's got surefire hands. Honestly, there should be a reason to go ahead and check his gloves like we do with pitchers because the man doesn't drop anything. And I guarantee you that Stickum is somehow involved in it. Another wide receiver that probably is going to gain a little bit of buzz, but maybe not as much as you probably see, Xavier Legette. Listen, Legette was legit for South Carolina. In fact, he was the only real weapon for South Carolina last year. Juice Walls goes down in week 3. Trey Knox finishes with the second most receiving yards and receptions, both under 40 and under 400 yards, because literally all you had was Legette go off. Over 1,200 receiving yards last year, 7 touchdowns. He's got good size. He can play that X role. He's a refined blocker, which I think adds a second element to his game. But I think what really stands out about Legette is that he can play the complementary role. But let's just say some random weekend, like the Carolina Panthers, they draft him at 33. And he ends up going off and has a pretty good start to his career. But Adam Thielen and Deontay Johnson get hurt. He can take over games. And you know he can because you watched him this past year in Columbia, South Carolina. In fact, you can make an argument that him and Spencer Rattler, the only reason why they had 5 wins was because they were in sync most of the time. You can't say the offensive line was good. You can't say the run game was good. You can't really say anything about the offense being anything but anemic when these two weren't doing things. So I think Legette is a legit number 2 receiver at the NFL level. I think there's a legit chance he sneaks his way into round 1. Xavier Worthy. I do think that he is going to get at least a phone call in the first round. Does that phone call lead to him get drafted? Who's to say? When you break records, you get phone calls. That's just the bottom line. You get endorsement deals. You literally get whatever you want because of speed can't be taught. And a 4.21 40, whether or not the numbers were a little lackadaisical, whether or not you don't believe that it's true, whether or not you don't believe that 40s exist and they're pointless, you still ran it. You're going to garner interest. He's got that home run threat capability. He's got pretty good hands as well. I think the thing that really stands out about him, his ability to separate at the line of scrimmage despite being 5'11" and only weighing 168 pounds. I don't worry about that weight at the NFL level if you're just scooting and boogieing past literally every single target humanly possible. There's a lot of optimism with a guy like Worthy to be a number 1. At worst, I think that he's a number 2. Really, at worst, he's probably the best number 3 wide receiver from the get-go. Teams sometimes love running the 3 receiver set, so don't make a mistake to think that that can't be the case. Darius Robinson, a very versatile defensive lineman from Missouri. Blake Baker, by the way, LSU fans who are watching this video, who have stuck around for over 20 minutes to see me go on long-winded spiels and just continuously spew out nonsense. You guys are getting the dude that turned him into a first-round talent. That's who's your new defense coordinator. And you got a guy by the name of Harold Perkins that probably could end up being the best linebacker in college football next season. But Robinson, versatile playmaker. He can shift inside on passing sets. He can work outside. He's a bully built up front. Good arms, extremely long arms. 14 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks last season. Really dominant day and one-on-one reps at the Senior Bowl. I actually got to speak to multiple Senior Bowl scouts that were there. They all loved his game. They thought that he was a great playmaker. And the fact that he can be a tone setter and was a captain at times at Missouri speaks a lot of volume about what he provides in terms of the veteranship. Keon White last year was a name that got a lot of attention coming out of Georgia Tech. There is very similar skill sets toward what a guy like Darius Robinson can do. Adonai Mitchell, this will probably be one of the last guys that we talk about today. I have no idea why we are not talking more about Adonai Mitchell. And yes, he does count regardless of what you want to say with Texas because he was effective in winning 2 national championships in Georgia. So regardless, sorry to all the Texas haters out there that say they're not in the SEC. Well, this guy was, and you won 2 national championships because of him. 6'4" frame, good red zone target, does not drop many balls, very much a good blend that is able to create separation. He elevates, and more importantly, he gets the big time catch. Everything that you saw last season was just a wonder. Like, who knew leaving a 2-time national championship winning program would only boost your stock? And you didn't even go to the national championship this year. But once again, you made a big-time catch in the Sugar Bowl in the college football playoff, which means 5 touchdowns over 3 years. I don't know how many people can say that. Good catch radius, good overall size, great footwork, and the ability to bully people when he wants. The main reason why some are concerned about him is he had a comment at the NFL Combine saying that he wasn't going full speed, and maybe that's going to turn off some teams. But you know what will turn them on to his tape? Watching what he does inside the red zone. He was a play away from getting the Longhorns to the national championship. Overall, he can hit all 3 levels of the field. He doesn't have elite numbers, but he is, in my opinion, I think, an elite playmaker with time and space. Don't be shocked if he ends up being one of those players that has probably a pretty decent career. Last guy for you, I'll throw you a bone, Oklahoma. Tyler Guyton is probably going to be, in my opinion, the most secure offensive tackle in the class. Now, secure does not mean great. It does not mean elite. It just means upside's there, floor there, good balance, good consistency. That's all you need. And so when I look at a guy like Guyton, who's been able to play on the right side of the line, has been able to get extensive reps during his tenure, 10 games last season, very small, very long frame, good power, good footwork. He's probably going to be a right tackle at the NFL, but I still think that there is a lot to like about him. I think that there is a ton of upside to his game. More importantly, I think that when you find him in space, he actually plays a lot bigger than he is, which could end up being a big blessing for any team out there. We just did 25 minutes talking about the first-round picks, potential first-round picks, so do me a favor. Make sure that you hit the like button. Comment down below who is your dark horse to make it into the NFL draft's first round, and hit subscribe because We're on the race to 10,000 subscribers, but we're also on the race to make sure we are the #1 content talking all things SEC football leading up to week 1. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Make sure that you're following us on social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, really wherever you see fit at SEC Unfiltered, and for the #1 content surrounding the #1 conference in all of college athletics. Make sure you visit SECUnfiltered.com. Until next time, SEC folks, I'm Cole Thompson. Later.